We're going to move a little bit further along, I think, in the pipeline to Pelin and Tomasz, clinical trials. So I'm going to talk to you about knowing the person behind the patient. And that's a concept we've got here at Luvida. Unfortunately, I do think a lot of us will be familiar with a lot of the statistics that we're seeing here. So 80% of trials are not meeting their recruitment and enrollment timelines. Around 30 to 40% of people are dropping out on a trial or becoming significantly non-adherent. And there are about 3.3 protocol amendments per trial. Each protocol amendment, depending on the phase of trial, is going to cost you somewhere between 200 and 500K and add about 3 months to your timeline. Importantly, that's a lot of on-patent revenue that's getting lost. So what do I mean by knowing the person behind the patient? Today, what you see when you're designing a clinical trial is biomedical data. We've gotten really good at that. Lots of omics data, genomics data, also clinical trial data, so eligibility criteria, endpoints from past trials and lessons learned from there. There's a big part of the patient's life that you are not seeing today. So that's things like their socioeconomic status, their income level, their educational attainment, transport and access, how far away from a site are they? Are they going to need support getting to that site? What are their caring responsibilities? Do they have dependents? All of these things are hidden risks in your trial design. There's another piece here as well around health literacy and motivation. So 97% roughly, give or take, depending on the trial and indication area, of people who are eligible for a trial won't enroll in that trial, and a lot of that comes down to motivation, trust in the healthcare system, and lots of other factors that we haven't systematized. We're doing that here at Luvida. So we are uncovering novel recruitment, retention, and adherence risks upfront at the trial design stage, so you can see those risks before you even enroll a single patient. You can then also scenario model these different risks. So you can make lots of tweaks to your eligibility criteria. This is somewhere where AI is really good because it's a huge multivariate problem. So as you're making these different tweaks, what's that doing to the level of risk in different areas in that underlying population? Everything we do, everything we surface is evidence-backed and can be traced back to the source of the data for that decision, whether that's a previous trial that's informed that recommendation from the AI, or whether that's an underlying population pool. So we've curated a database of all the historic trials. There's about 600,000 of those available from all the registries. We've tied that to all the literature that's been published around those trials. That helps supplement some of the information. Often, a lot of that information was the endpoint met, whether recruitment challenges, etc., is not available in some of these registries. And then we layer over our curated database of electronic life records. So these are really where you're getting that patient insight. This is where we're showing all of these socioeconomic and demographic factors. And we use that alongside our proprietary social determinants of health risk index to surface risks in your trial. Sometimes the data is not perfect. Sometimes there's gaps. We've done the work to understand where those gaps are. We've also done the work to understand where the risks are. So one of the things we actually do and work with our partners on is going out and filling those gaps where is needed. So on a specific indication, maybe some specific site locations, we will go and collect data on the patients in those areas to learn and understand the risk better. So some different proof points that I'm going to take you through now. These are a couple of trials that we've worked on recently. The first is a phase 1 GSK trial, and the second one is a phase 4 retinopathy trial by the University of Oxford. So here we were looking at, can we predict protocol amendments? So we actually took the protocol that had already been done. We knew how many amendments happened and what caused those amendments. And we time sliced the data in the platform and ran our models to understand whether, based on the data that was available at that time, could we have seen and predicted those amendments up front. And you can see here that we got a 50% prediction accuracy rate and a 100% prediction accuracy rate on the second one. The second one was only had one amendment, but it was pretty major. So another thing that we've done recently, so this is more around the risks in that underlying population that I've been talking about. So this was a Novo Nordisk phase 2 obesity trial. Column A here is showing you the original eligibility criteria. So we mapped that onto the population. And we saw actually that there was an issue with the age gap. So lots of mobility issues because the eligibility criteria was 18 plus years. We then narrowed that eligibility criteria to cut it off at age 65. And we then actually noticed that we increased the risk of mental health burden in that population. So this kind of shows that actually you can tweak one thing and think you're changing that risk, but actually it increases a risk in another area. The third scenario that we modeled here was actually excluding people that had mental health burden, and that was protective, and that was the lowest risk study. It's worth noting here we've done this for 3, just to make that example a bit simpler. We can do this at scale, and we do it across hundreds of different scenarios to pull out the best one. Another piece of work we've been doing is in collaboration with OmniLabs Research. They've got a really cool new technology for stroke rehabilitation. So they were going to use external consultants, as a lot of biotechs do, and instead they used our platform. So they were able to do this themselves. They are not experts in stroke. They are not clinicians. They're founders of a company. They've been able to put together their phase 2 protocol using Luvida. That saved them months in design, and they've also gone on to be able to secure sites with this. And something really cool here is the clinicians at those sites, when they spoke with their KOLs, they understood everything in the protocol because of that evidence base that was presented alongside all of the decision making and rationale for those different protocol decisions. So there's a few ways that we work with people. You can have open access to the platform itself. So that's very dynamic. You can go in, play around, look at the trial landscape, look at what competitors are doing, understand the regulatory guidance around things, and build out your protocols and understand and assess that risk in the underlying population. We also build out reports, so this was similar to the Novo Nordisk one that I mentioned. So these are very study specific. Perhaps you've got one trial that you're working on and you'd like us to build out a report more as a services piece of work. We can do that. It's a really nice report. It's really easy to understand, and it provides that guidance and all those different scenarios for you to make those decisions. The third thing you can do is actually give Luvida a go yourself today. I'll flip on to the next slide because there's a slightly bigger QR code if anyone's interested. So you can go in, we've got a limited trial open. You get 3 analyses that you can have a go at, so you can have a play around in the platform yourself and see how it works. So you can do that today. Thank you.